Blessings. So this is chapter 3 in my book, A Different Road from Bum to Mystic. It's a book recording some of the things that happened to me while I was traveling around the United States. Anyhow, chapter 3. Welcome home. All one, many parts, sacred fire of the yearning heart. That's part of a rainbow chant. Anyhow, this is talking about my first experience at a rainbow gathering in Shasta, California. This was the gathering of two heart fires. To me, it was also the end of an era. One reason why I write this story is to capture a lost generation, a time few even knew existed, because laws were being made to impede our freedoms. The words were being taken from us. Garcia's heroin addiction was infecting our minds. Greed was infiltrating our hearts, and the foundation of the rainbow ways was being smothered in good times and selfishness. I cannot speak for those who came before me, but what I have seen is that the love on the road was slowly deteriorating and transforming into the very thing many of us were trying to escape: society's sickness. I stood there at the precipice looking at two paths, and both of them were tainted. Some say the reason why this gathering split was over money and food. The truth was, the money did not split us, the selfishness did. We split ourselves, and in doing so, we allowed our light to dim. After this gathering, I would never see Gigglebug again. It was late when we arrived. Gigglebug hooked up with a sister, leaving me at a fire with 9 strangers. The stars twinkled above us, the cold hung on our backs, and the fire warmed our hearts. We were strangers, but it felt as if we were family. We talked about everything: who we are, where we had come from, and where we were going. Those few that had already been to a gathering talked about their experiences and the funny things they had witnessed. It was perfect. By the time I went to bed, most had already left. Either from simple denseness or from a lack of self-esteem, I failed to notice the beautiful sister eyeing me during the night. When I got up, she got up and followed me to my bed. After a lovely experience, we laid there on our backs, breathlessly looking up at the stars, reveling in life's beauty. I awoke to the sun as it arose over the mountains and sparkled through the glistening drops of moisture hanging from the cobwebs above me. My night companion had already left. I was really going to like this. Jumping up like a child on Christmas Day, I dressed, stuffed my bag into its sack, and hiked down the trail to the main part of the gathering. I learned later that the place I slept at the night before was called Bus Village. This is where people who wish to camp in their buses, vans, cars, and RVs stay, instead of going into the main part of the gathering with their tents and tarps. In some ways, Bus Village reminds me of the lot scene in a Grateful Dead show. Walking down the trail was an adventure. I saw people everywhere, dressed in every imaginable style and color. I saw punks dressed in patched leather clothing with baby pins and bottle caps holding everything together. A little further down the trail, I saw hillbillies, hicks, hippies, Christians, Hare Krishnas, veterans, average-looking people, poor people, kids of all ages, and college students. Once in a while, the trail would open to a group of people camping together. Usually, these clusters of people orbited around a rainbow kitchen where breakfast and dinner was served. Some kitchens served tea, cocoa, coffee, zuzus, sweet things, and goo balls. More sweet things with delightful herb added in for good measure during the day. And it was all free. As I walked down the main trail, I saw signs on trees pointing out where kitchens and shitters were located. A shitter is a deep hole to crap in. The basic requirements for a decent crapper are a log to lean against, the can to keep the paper dry, some soil to cover the crap in the hopes of keeping dogs and flies away, and some hand sanding. My first time on the shitter was one I will never forget. I was leaning back on the log with my left arm, right one sprayed out for balance, when a deer fly decided to chew on my left elbow. Flailing with my right arm trying to swat the fly, spitting and screaming towards it, I barely switched arms before nearly falling in. Ever since then, I squat over the hole or find shitters with nice seats. Continuing down the trail, I was bombarded by face after smiling face. Occasionally, a welcome home was shouted from the trees, reminding all who passed that we're family. My family, the rainbow family, is romantic, disgusting, pathetic, and heroic, all in the same sentence. I have been part of a group tracking down a lost child. I have seen a person nearly lose their head from a machete. That was in A camp. I've been part of a group tracking down a lost child. I've joined a water line to put out a fire. I have helped hunt down a rapist, and I have even fed the hungry and given drink to the thirsty. If Jesus were born during our times, the rainbow gatherings would be one of his primary venues. For as I stood there, looking down into the open field, watching as some people scurried down trails while others sat in the meadow smoking herb and laughing, I felt at home and I was welcomed. It did not matter if I was black or white, gay or straight, patched, closed, or in a suit, pink-haired or dread with leaves sticking out in odd angles. Everyone was welcome, and everyone had a place. I moved a lot during this first gathering. Every night I camped with different people, stayed at different fires, and experienced different things. Everything was new to me. One night I watched a group of people put on a talent show. Another night I danced with 30 people around a fire. And still another night I listened to an elder tell stories about the heavens. I spent a few nights tripping on acid and looking up at the stars. A few other nights were spent chasing beautiful sisters into my tent. And one night I consumed some peyote and joined 20 others in a lodge. Sweat lodge. While the night is exotic and exciting, the days are awesome as well. Most mornings I sat sleepy-eyed on a log, waiting for the kitchen to serve coffee. During this time, the kitchens are crazy. Dishes are cleaned, wood is collected, trash is picked up, camps are organized, and the trails are worked on. Walking down the trails is always an adventure. People from all around say hello. At times, someone will call you over to ask a question or serve some coffee, herb, or tea. Once the sun starts to rise itself above the trees, workshops, music groups, herb walks, and 100 other things happen. Some people go to gatherings to learn, others to teach, and still others just to hang out with family and enjoy life. When I started to go to gatherings, these were the three primary reasons for people to come. After Garcia's death, the gatherings also became a place to sell drugs, get fucked up, escape the world, or simply waste away. No matter how fucked up the gatherings got, though, there were always degrees of spirituality present. By now, the workshops begin. Tai Chi masters, herbalists, Reiki practitioners, massage therapists, dancers, singers, painters, drum makers, and musicians from all different backgrounds share their knowledge freely. The herb walks and chant circles are my favorite. Around noon, the trade circle begins as well. Usually this is a semicircle-shaped procession of people with blankets laid on the ground and stuff on top. It is surreal in some ways to be out in the woods and still find some form of commerce. The difference is that we trade rather than buy, although money still finds a niche from time to time. For the most part, though, people have and bring stuff to trade. I've seen every possible object up for barter. Crystals, knives, cars, books, and drugs are just a few things found in the circle. The magic of the circle is its power to make the world move. I used to joke about how a toothpick could be traded for a car until I actually experienced something like that. At one gathering, a friend and I wanted to get some shrooms, and all we had was a Snicker bar. We came up with the idea of working the circle to see if we could get some. We took our chocolate bar to the trade circle, a hot commodity in some gatherings, and traded it for a book. We traded the book for a knife, the knife for a bunch of chocolate from someone else. The chocolate was then traded for a large amethyst crystal, and with the crystal we were able to barter for some mushrooms. A decent trade circle usually has at least 10 to 20 different traders. By moving from one to the next, the energy can be shifted around so that everyone is benefiting. We all have desires, and while a book I had just finished might not have any value to me, the taste of chocolate in the middle of the woods might. Likewise, I might have too many knives, and I would love to have a book to read. Even though the value of the knife might have more monetarily worth than a book, to the knife owner, a book has more value. Everyone has something they want and something they do not care for. Knowing what people want and knowing where to get it makes trading that much more enjoyable. By the middle of the gathering, I found myself camping around a kitchen called Shamalama Ding Dong. This was their first gathering, and so I found myself trying to help them gather food and supplies from Mount Shasta. While panhandling, getting food stamps, and dumpster diving is the usual method of gathering supplies, to my inexperienced self, I foolishly went door to door asking for donations. I got everything the kitchen requested and more. It was a fun day, and it was rewarding to bring a kitchen the supplies they needed to feed those who come under its tarp. The Rainbow Kitchen is a world unto itself. Every one of them is different. In all my years traveling, I've never claimed to be part of one. I've camped near them, helped with the dishes, collected wood, picked up trash, and done many other things for them. Even now, I am not sure why I avoided their circles. Without them and those who find joy in helping and feeding others, the rainbow gatherings wouldn't exist. The kitchens are composed of 3 groups. The inner group is comprised of the original founders of the kitchen and a few close friends that have over time become their holder of its fire. The second circle is made up of people who look for the kitchen to camp near and help sometimes when there is a need. And the last circle is the leechers, those who just come to get what they can and move on. In some way, this is how life is. They are the creators who make the initiative to start something. Next comes those who appreciate and help maintain what is created. And then comes the vampires who suck away all the goodness in life. The more I look at my experiences at the gathering, the more I realize just how much we bring the world out into the woods. We are part of the world, and no matter how hard we try to change it, until we change ourselves, there ain't going to be any change. A kitchen is usually set up under a large tarp or group of tarps. Each kitchen has a wash station made up of 3 buckets, one for scrubbing, one for bleach water, and one for rinsing. I cannot remember how many times I have taken the buckets and dumped them in the gray water pit, filling them up with hot water only to do it again an hour later. It's hard work and not very rewarding. Few people appreciate the hard work others put into keeping the world clean. We go around making messes as if we are entitled to have others take care of our own crap. I never liked dealing with the dishes, but the more I went to gatherings, the more value I saw in helping out in this way. I've actually witnessed a kitchen break up because no one wanted to do the dishes. An organized kitchen will have at least 3 fire pits with grates over them. 1 fire for tea and coffee, a second for the dishwater, and a third for cooking. A nice kitchen will also have an oven. I've seen ovens built from rocks and soil of the land and then watched as bread baked inside them. I went to a gathering in Florida where a guy held workshops on making solar ovens with plexiglass, black spray paint, aluminum foil, and cardboard. We baked cookies in them. The Rainbow family has a lousy reputation in some communities, for there are a lot of unpleasant stuff that happen in them and around them. At the same time, there is a lot of good that happens in them as well. I've seen the most giving, caring, thoughtful people I've ever met in life at them, and in numbers. We can go to any city and find a few people that care, but to go to a village inside the gathering and find hundreds of caring people, that is something to be cherished and honored. love water. Okay. The rainbow family has a lousy reputation in some communities, for there's a lot of unpleasant stuff that happens in and around it. At the same time, there's a lot of good that happens in them as well. I've seen the most giving. Oh, wait, I read that part. Well, I'll just read it anyways again. I've seen the most giving, caring, thoughtful people I've ever met in life at them, and in numbers. We can go to any city and find a few people that care, but to go to a village inside the gathering and find hundreds of caring people, that is something to be cherished and honored. There's something to be said for a group of people that come together to give and share rather than take. In such an environment, joy, growth, and compassion are the natural byproducts. And that giving starts in the kitchens. I have a friend who started one of the most popular and long-lasting kitchens. He would spend a lot of time and resources throughout the year gathering food, material, and money to go to the national gathering. At the gatherings, he would get people together to build structures for nightly performances, help organize the heart fire, set up water stations, among hundreds of other little things that most of us take for granted. And all of this was on top of managing a large kitchen. It's people like him that give the gatherings power. One year I helped him bring in food on a canoe, and some of the food was lost in the water. I could see the pain in his eyes while some laughed about it. Not many people help set up the kitchens, and even fewer help break them down. The leechers, or what we call drainbows, really take away the joy. And that was one of his last kitchens that he did. It sucked. As the sun sets, many of the kitchens prepare dinner for the heart fire, the gathering center. Originally, the heart fire was the light from which the gathering found its source of power and love. It was and is the divine spark, the central essence that burns from the beginning of the gathering to its end. Every fire at the gathering is supposed to take a coal or flame from the heart fire to start their own. Every kitchen, every camp, every fire was connected. We're one. This is our center where we gather to eat and celebrate life together. Standing in the circle around the flickering light, we hold hands and om, pray, announce, pass the magic hat to collect energy and money for main supplies, and eat. The elders, pregnant, nursing mothers, and young all eat first, and then the food is taken around the circle to feed everyone else. While the food is bland to make sure everyone can eat, the love and sweat that's put into its preparation makes the food some of the most nourishing and enjoyable that I've ever eaten. After eating, the heart fire is stoked. That's funny. Needs a comma there. After eating, the heart fire is stoked. The drummers come out and the dancers start to move to the rhythm of the beat. Over the years, I've noticed 3 stages connected with the nightly heart fire ritual. At first, it's exuberant, chaotic, and surrounded by a lot of sexual energy, where people flaunt their stuff and show off their style. It's like a mating dance of a sort. Not really, but it is exciting and crazy. After a few hours, a lot of that energy leaves, and what's left behind is a general sense of getting in tune with our hearts through the drumming and dancing. It becomes a life of its own as it takes each of us on a journey upward and inward. While there is always some sexual tension, for the most part, it has dissipated by this time. As the night eaves towards morning, the circle becomes quiet, the drumming softens or even disappears. Talking begins, maybe some chanting or storytelling finds a place. All the while, a silent unification of those still awake flows through us like a creek in a hidden valley. This is the magic hour, the time when the Mad Hatter comes out of his or her hiding. When the rangers are gone and the riffraff has floated away, the shaman comes bearing sparks of wisdom. A Mad Hatter is a person bearing gifts of some hallucinogenic substance. Usually this is LSD, but sometimes it could be shrooms or some other lovely plant. Mad Hatters do not come to every fire, nor do they appear at every gathering. But when they do, life shifts, the world tilts, and the realm of magic opens to share its mystical gifts with us. Fire takes on new meaning. Each person's face becomes permanently embedded in our hearts, and every thought and idea that is spoken is remembered. Sometimes it's embarrassing, as when we take a chance to say what we believe only to be met with people's doubt. And other times it's enlightening, as when we come to some realization about ourselves and the world around us. The sad thing with the heart fire is its smoke. Over the years, the smoke has become darker and darker. Kitchens no longer use it as their source of light. People throw trash, cigarette butts, and spit in it. It's been left to smolder and die out, and it's constantly surrounded by sexual energy and drugs. And when it is small, there are times when people will actually walk over it as if it's insignificant. I've watched the gatherings dissolve into a sanctuary of escapism and hedonism. Money just started to find its way into the trade circle. Alcohol made its way past A camp. Heroin found secret holes to hide in. And violence crept deeper and deeper into the center of my family's heart. At one gathering, I saw a live oak cut down right on top of the heart fire. The heart fire is a guide, a light, a shining beacon the rainbow way, and cutting down a live tree for firewood in the heart circle is beyond reproach. I would hate to leave this chapter in such a bad note, though. The fact is, no matter how many terrible things I can point to about the gatherings, the good will always outweigh them. Even when the elders started to leave the gatherings, there were youngsters, kids like my friend who ran the kitchens, and sometimes people like me who are forced into leadership roles. A day at a gathering is guided by an ethereal current that takes us along on a journey. Time has no bearing. We wake when we wake. We lay naked on the rocks when it's warm. We roll in the mud when it's hot, and we dance until the owl goes to sleep. My family, the Rainbow family, has many heads but no leader. We make decisions through consensus rather than votes. We heal our bodies calmly. Center for Alternative Living Medicine, that means. And when there's trouble, we don't have police with cuffs, but a common familyhood of people that come together whenever, wherever the words Shante Sina are called out. We are a family that holds the great feather and respect for one another, listening and judging a person's words on the merit of what they say rather than who they are. We are a group of people with many different beliefs, histories, philosophies, and political affiliations, and yet we can gather together around the sacred prayer pole and silently meditate, pray, and think about peace and well-being for all creation. We sit in one circle, Christians, Muslims, Buddhists, Communists, Republicans, Democrats. We sit together holding hands because deep inside each of us wants to be loved and respected. We want to be honored, heard, and recognized. This is my family. And while we might be looked down upon, at least I feel at home with them. And when I cry out with my heart song, I know I will be heard. Peace.